want to, you let me know. And if there's any comment or question that need my immediate attention, Athman, you let me know and I will act appropriately.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to continue with our session, which we started last week, 2 weeks ago. And we are learning to become better research assistants. 2 weeks ago, we learned on conducting data collection. And I provided an introduction, which included telling you that the researcher who engages you to be a research assistant will introduce you to the activity at hand, will orient you on important considerations before and during data collection. And I took you through some of the common data collection methods and informed you that before going to the field, you must familiarize yourself with all the data collection tools and the procedures. And for that matter, you have to attend the training before going to the field. And during the training, I informed you that there will be a pretest of the tools and the procedures that you're going to follow. And then I took you through different roles that you may be engaged in, including planning, coordinating, administering, and supervising data collection. And we discussed some of the roles of a supervisor. Today, we are going to walk through data collection assurance, data management, synthesis, and analysis. And I will briefly introduce you to how we prepare a research report. So if you are engaged as a data collection assistant, you will be trained and supported to assist the researcher to manage data and ensure data quality. During that training, you will know some of your roles, which, if well accomplished, you will participate and support data quality. Because when we are collecting data from the field or from secondary sources, we want to be sure that we are gathering what makes sense rather than garbage. So for you to be able to ensure data quality, you will have to attend training organized by the researcher. Always resist the temptation to think that you already know so much. Some people think they already know so much. And for me, I give them an example of what, for us Christians, when we go to the church, and I guess the Muslims as well, the priest will always refer to the same Bible, which has been there for the past 2,000 years. And some of us have received the same sermons in the church or the mosque several times. But if you pay attention, the Holy Spirit speaks to you and you can know something new, which you never thought of last year. The same applies with training for the research assistants. It is very important to attend and commit your time, listen to the training, review the tools, make sure that you are competent before you go for data collection. You are expected to study and practice filling or using the tools that the researcher has prepared. And when you go to the field, depending on the method of data collection, at the end of that method, be it interviewing or focus group discussion, check that all the tools are fully filled, that each and every question is fully filled. Don't just assume that you're gonna fill the responses when you go back to your hotel. And most of the strict researchers will organize debrief meetings at the end of each day, and you have to attend those, even if they may be happening at late hours. And always when collecting data, be sincere and get committed to what you're doing. Some of the research assistants tend to lie. They don't go to interview the prospective respondent, and they sit down under a tree and feel the tools. That one is a lie. And if discovered, you're going to be punished. If you're not discovered, you're going to affect the quality of the report that comes from the research. And for the researcher to ensure quality, he will definitely engage research assistants who have attended this training and who have the minimum qualification. If they expect to be graduates, they have to be graduates. Ensure that all the research assistants attend the training, specifically prepared for the research activity. The researcher will conduct a pretest, which, as I have already said, you have to participate. The researcher will provide daily supportive supervision, either in person or through supervisors who have been trained. There will be some spot checking when you are collecting data. So if the supervisor comes over your shoulder to see what you are doing, don't feel embarrassed. They're trying to ensure quality. And as I've already mentioned, there will be evening debrief meetings, which you have to participate, including reviewing all data collection tools for completeness and to rule out any discrepancies and gaps. If the data collection is conducted electronically, definitely the electronic tools will have been programmed by the programmer, and you as research assistants, you're going to pretest those tools either in the classroom or in the field. You're going to check that the skip patterns are correct, and you're going to give feedback to the programmer that some things needs to be corrected. You will see that there are limits on the numeric data that you can enter, on the entries that you can make in the electronic form. For example, if the answer is yes or no, there may be a numeric number for that, 1 or 2. So if you write yes, it won't go in. You have to make sure that you follow the instructions. Qualitative data character limit is very important to ensure during the pretest, because if you're going to be writing a paragraph, say for example, with 1,000 characters, and the space provided is less than that, you need to bring that up before you go for data collection. Because if the character limit is, say, 500 characters, and you want to write 1,000 characters, a big chunk of your data will not be uploaded. And then finally, you have to ensure same-day check on completeness before uploading the data. Usually, electronic data is uploaded on the same day, sometimes immediately after a particular interview or event. Now let's move on to managing qualitative data. In order for you to support the researcher to properly manage qualitative data, you have to ensure that you write detailed notes during interviews, focus group discussions, or observation, depending on the method that you're using to collect the data. You'll be required to enter your notes into a password-protected computer, and at your level, you should have a laptop. If for sure you have other assets, when I was doing my studies 15 years ago, the IT specialist who was training us said, you know, people are used to buying lots of assets, furniture, sofa coaches, chairs, tables, and so on, but they forget to buy a laptop. Mr. Atman, if you can mute them, someone is interfering. Please make sure that your mic is muted when you are listening. And if you have a question, you send your comment to Athman. I'll be asking to stop and respond to your question. So some of the tools that you're going to be required to enter the data may include an Excel database, which will be prepared by the researcher, or some other software which are available to the researchers, such as EpiInfo, Atlas TI, Deduce, and so on. You may be requested to participate in the translation of the notes. For example, if the interviews were conducted in Swahili and the notes must be entered into the tools in English, you may support that definitely with a pay. So if you are good in both languages, say English and Swahili, you may be requested to participate in translation. Notes taken during interviews and discussions may be augmented with audio records. So when you're going to collect the data, you may be given an audio record, which you're going to be collecting voice and that may help you to augment and complete your notes. And you may be requested to transcribe the whole recording. It depends on the nature of the research. At the end of each event of data collection, you'll be required to check that the tools are completely and correctly filled. And at the end of each day, you're going to be convening at a convenient location where you'll be going through the tools and addressing any challenges, and so that the data collection on the next day is smooth. Debrief meetings will be held to ensure completeness, logic, and accuracy, as well as to address challenges that you may have met during the data collection process. In terms of managing quantitative data, you will be requested to assist with data entry into a password-protected computer, and you're going to be using the software or the databases that the researcher has prepared. This may include an Excel database or SPSS, Stata, and so on. Data collected using computers, that is electronic data, is almost always uploaded into a common server, and the data manager, someone responsible for data management, will download the data into an Excel sheet or any other format that they are using, and you may be guided on how to conduct data cleaning. Some of you may have participated in data cleaning, and that involves going through the data set to identify omissions, duplications, wrong entries, and rectifying them before embarking on data analysis. So the researcher will ask you, go through the Excel sheet, look for 1, 2, 3, 4, and make sure that you make those corrections. And those are what we call data cleaning. In terms of preliminary data analysis, usually data analysis is preceded by developing a data analysis plan, and this is done by the researcher. And if you are a senior research assistant, you may be requested to assist the researcher to develop. And the data analysis plan is usually approved by the client. So the data analysis plan helps you to organize your findings by theme. And under each theme, you'll be guided on which questions answer that particular theme or objective or question. And the researcher, in collaboration with the client, will decide which software is going to be used to analyze the different data that you collect. Some of these tools are mentioned in here. For qualitative data, I have already mentioned the tools that you can use. You may use Excel, Atlas TI, Envivo, Info, Deduce, and so on. The details on how to use these tools, different training can be organized, and you can be taken through these tools. It is not the intention of this training to conduct training on how to use the different tools that I mentioned here for qualitative and quantitative data. And then the researcher will develop dummy tables, which you may be requested to assist to answer specific research questions. So if you have experience in using any of the data analysis tools, then you will be able to support the researcher to fill the dummy tables. Dummy tables are empty tables with a specific title, specific parameters or variables, and values that are going to be generated from the tools that you entered your primary and secondary data. Data analysis plan will also state graphs to be generated from the data. So you will be asked to press certain buttons to generate those graphs. The data analyst will conduct a preliminary review of the data for completeness and conduct structural coding to ensure that data which relates to a particular research questions are put together. So there's no confusion, there's no duplication, and there's no omission. After preliminary structural coding, the researcher will do another round of process coding to prepare the findings for analysis. And you may be supporting them depending on your willingness and commitment. All findings, conclusions, and recommendations will be organized in a way that it is easier now to come up with the recommendations. And the researcher will use the findings, conclusions, and recommendations to come up with a draft report. Findings from different sources are going to be triangulated. So for example, one question may be asked during key informant interviews, and the same question is answered by conducting desk review. Sorry, and the same question is administered to a focus group. So the researcher will try to compare responses from different sources and come up with a summary of findings which respond to the research objective in question. Sorry. In performing data analysis, the researcher will also ensure that conclusions which are drawn from the findings have evidence-based findings. They're not just drawn from their own feelings, but you have the findings on paper. Then you can draw conclusions from those findings. And then after drawing the conclusions, then you can recommend from the conclusions. For example, if you are doing research to answer a question, if it's a community empowerment program, for example, if that particular project engaged people in income generating activities, and the finding is, yes, so and so many people were engaged in income generating activities, then you're gonna find that their lives have changed. For example, if they were supported through training and through startup capital to start some small business, say be it a shop or any other small business, and then you have these findings from the field that, oh, their lives have changed because they have an income which they have used to construct a house, and they have an income which they have used to expand their business, to send their children to school, and so on. Then you can be able to recommend what needs to be improved or what needs to be taken forward. The researcher will distill recommendations, so they are listed for each key actor. When you are doing an evaluation, for example, of a program, there are several stakeholders involved in that particular program. And so you want to come up with a recommendation for each one of them. You don't just list a long list of recommendations which are difficult to consume. So you have to say for the government, for the international agencies, international NGOs, national NGOs, whoever, what are they supposed to take from the researcher? So you have to distill the recommendations according to whoever is supposed to act. Don't just come up with a shopping list. The researcher will follow a utilization-focused approach. So the findings are useful and the recommendations are actionable. You don't just recommend and go away. You have to think, are these going to be actionable? By who? Which resources are needed? When can they act on these? What kind of support they need? And then you make those kind of recommendations. Having said all that, now you want to write your report. Now you have your findings, you have collected the data, you have analyzed the data, and you have the findings well distilled, you have the conclusions, and the recommendations which are sketchy. So the researcher will prepare themes or subtopics for synthesizing the findings. When you look at a questionnaire, if you have attended any data collection, the questionnaire is full of questions. So the researcher's responsibility is to come up with sub-themes or subtopics on how the findings will be organized. Then findings are sorted and organized by research question. And it is easier if the researcher prepared the data collection tool, organizing them by objective, rather than just coming up with a list of questions. These findings are then synthesized to answer the research question. Always remember, you have to look at the research questions and look at the objectives so that it is easier for you to come up with a report. Findings are then read parallel with the existing literature to identify similarities, gaps, and flag new findings. So if you found something in the field, have people found that before? Is it available in the literature, or is it a completely new finding? So desk review is usually conducted at the beginning before going to the field. During data collection, as you look at the data, you go back to the desk review and try to make sense out of the data. And then eventually during the reporting, the writing of the report. As you read and review the findings using the lens of existing literature, then you crystallize the findings to answer the research questions, as well as now draw conclusions from the findings. And eventually you come up with recommendations which are made after analyzing the findings and the conclusions. Eventually you're gonna find yourself reading through your data, digging through your data repeatedly. You come from the beginning to the end, and then you come back again. You read the findings several times to ensure the flow of the draft report is responding to the objectives of the research. You may have so many findings from the field, but if you are not guided by the research questions and the research objectives, you can have a lousy report full of so much information, but not responding to the research objectives. Finally, normally the research reports have this flow. You have an executive summary with key findings, a brief on the introduction about the research, a brief on the methodology on how the data were collected. Then we're going to highlight the key findings, key conclusions, and key recommendations. That is written in the executive summary. And the executive summary is written at the end of the report because you're writing it after having read through the whole 50-page or 100-page report. And then comes the introduction and background. The introduction tells how and when the research was decided, why did you go to the field, what were the objectives, what were the questions, and then some background information which is provided in the project documents and in the literature. Then we're going to do some literature review and documents responding to the research questions and the objectives. You will definitely describe how data were collected, the methods that were used, the geographical areas that were visited, the types of respondents, the number of different categories of respondents. Those are summarized in the methodology. And then the findings are going to be summarized by objective. After that, then you discuss the findings. Discussing the findings means highlighting findings in relation to the existing literature, whether they are supporting each other or they differ. And then you explain why do they differ. So you find yourself interpreting your findings. This is the time when you now interpret your findings. Some research assistants do want to interpret the findings while in the field. We say no, wait until the discussion time. That's where you bring in now your thinking, your understanding, your experience, and your ingenuity. Then you draw conclusions, and conclusions are guided by the objective. You draw conclusions looking at the findings, working through one objective after the other. And finally, you drop down your recommendations. Usually a report will have several annexes, which will include the data collection tools. If there was a research permit, you will include that. You will include the terms of reference, which took you to the field, and any other key annexes that you want to include in the report. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of my presentation. To open now a full discussion. If you attended the first session and you are attending the second session today, you may ask your questions right from the first session, which we covered data collection, and the session that has just ended now. Thank you very much, Athman. Now the floor is open for questions, for discussions.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, comment, question. Now, if you have any question regarding to last session, first session, or this second session, you may mute your mic, then ask the question. Welcome. Doctor, may you please display the first page, which show the contents of the training from the last session and this session? Yes. Yeah. Now, participant, you may ask a question regarding to those training contents so that doctor can explain more about that. Welcome.
Someone is saying whether they will get the notes. The answer is a big yes. You will get the notes. And if you have any follow-up questions, the MORLEARN team will be able to respond. And if you want to be available as a research assistant to our future activities, you may tell the MORLEARN team and they will be hooked up to the recruitment team. Athmani, if there are no questions, we can move on to the next.
Okay. Any question? I think no. Maybe you may wind up, doctor.
Very good. So this presentation was intended to last half an hour and we are right on time. If there are no questions, let me take this opportunity to thank the MORLEARN team for giving me the opportunity to share my slides and my experience. And I look forward to meeting all of you in the field of research and evaluation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, doctor. Before I'm closing, maybe any volunteer from participants to say something? Any volunteer from participants to say something?
Osman.
Yes, Manasseh, welcome. Yamas.
Oh, thank you so much. Just a word of thanks to Doctor and you for continuously organizing this kind of good trainings. And I just want to tell you that you have been impacting a very wide knowledge to us and to many of us out there. And we continue to believe that we'll keep on harvesting good knowledge from you guys, and we shall always be there to come together and join you in these good trainings. And the other good thing about it is, in this modern world, these kind of trainings are very, very costly. But for the sake of you having an intention of just to impact knowledge, you're giving these trainings with, I don't want to say with a very low cost, no, with a reasonable cost. And again, the kind of package that we receive is really amazing. So keep up the good work, and we will always be there to join you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emmanuel Nyamase, for encouraging words. Definitely, we're gonna work together to make the world a better place for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin Gerard, you want to say something?
Yes, Athman. I would like to appreciate the training and the session. Just I wanted to add some things, especially on the data quality and quality assurance. I think that is, for me, always, I believe that this is a very important part or very important thing to consider. And as Doctor said, you may find out that if you're a data collector, you become embarrassed, because nowadays the data managers or the programmers who program the questionnaires, they have some ways where they ensure even the data quality from the tool. There are some things such as timestamp. They insert timestamp, which you can't, you as a data collector, you can't see and you can't know. It's the part of data the data managers only who can know. Means that they will assess the time for the questions that you have asked me. So if you have taken very short time to ask the questions, that is another thing that you'll become embarrassed. And also there are things like back recording. This is background recording. You may find out that the recordings is taken without you knowing that there is recording that is taken during you are asking the questions. And these sometimes are used to assess the questionnaires or how you were asked the questions. So if you were cheating or there are some ways that you were doing incorrectly, you may find out that you will get embarrassed. And sometimes you may find out if you were conducting that kind of data collection as a consultant, maybe they will come up to drop you in coming projects. So these are very important things to consider, and I would like to appreciate it because Dr. have said it all. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much, Benjamin, for bringing that on the table. Definitely, without data quality, it is a waste of resources and time to go to the field if we have a data collection assistants who are not honest. And I remember to have emphasized being sincere and honest. Yes, for data that is collected electronically, don't ever try to lie at any time. The start time is noted electronically, the end time is noted, even the time spent on each question. So if, for example, if you just sit under a tree and try to plug in your answers and the tool has been pre-tested, we know that the tool will take 1 hour to complete and you just complete in 5 minutes, definitely it is a big lie. And number two, some of the electronic data collection is plugged with the GPS, which shows where you are at a particular time. For example, if you are going to be asked to go to collect data from households, the GPS will be showing where you are without you knowing. And nowadays, it is even possible to track you electronically. All your tools are going to be hooked in an electronic tracking system, which shows exactly where you are during the data collection time and when you come back to your hotel. So we want to encourage the new data collection assistants that to be sincere, honest, and committed to the work. And you're going to see the fruits when you acknowledge it in the report, and then you know that you did a good job, you feel good. Thank you very much, Benjamin, for that comment.
Yeah, thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Doctor. Any more comments from participants? Okay, some announcement. We MORLEARN will share participation certificates to all of you through your emails. So we'll ask you to send your 3 names through your emails. We'll send a form so that you can fill some information. And the second, about the next training will be on the basics for ODK, Open Data Kit, as a data collection platform. So we'll announce more about that. And the last issue is about the continuing supporting. So if you have any question, anything, you can contact us so that you will be linked to doctor and get support about those skills on the research assistant. We provide notes and this record so that for your review and storage. So maybe we want to take a group photo. You may now open your camera, then 5 seconds will capture a photo. Now welcome. Open your camera if you like.
Mhm. Mm. Mhm.
Yes, yeah, the photo has been captured. Thank you all
Thank you.
for your participation and the welcome. I hope you are all in our WhatsApp group for more updates. So all updates will be shared through the WhatsApp group. Welcome and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bam, bam, bam.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Deogracia. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you, Majaliwa. Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you.